This episode is sponsored by Gusto Embedded. Financial services giants like US Bank and Chase Payment Solutions are unlocking new revenue streams and building the all-in-one platform small businesses want with embedded payroll. Learn more about how to grow and retain your SMB customers by offering payroll on your platform at tearsheet.co/gusto. And welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast, where we explore financial services together with an eye on technology, innovation, emerging models, and changing expectations. I'm Tearsheet Editor-in-Chief, Zach Miller. And in recent years, we've witnessed a fundamental shift in how banks serve small and medium-sized businesses. What was once a straightforward relationship centered around products, loans, and deposits has transformed into something much more comprehensive and strategic. Today's leading financial institutions are positioning themselves as true operational partners, offering integrated ecosystems that extend far beyond traditional banking services. On today's episode, we're exploring several key themes reshaping business banking. Things like how banks are creating comprehensive service ecosystems that integrate things like payroll, HR, accounting, and financial planning. The digital transformation of bank-client relationships through data. How financial institutions are helping SMBs reduce administrative burdens, and how specialized value-added services are becoming critical competitive differentiators. And to discuss these trends, I'm thrilled to welcome Mike Walters, President of Business Banking at KeyBank, where he's responsible for leading KeyBank's National Business Banking Division across a multi-state footprint. Mike brings a wealth of experience in the business banking sector, where KeyBank has developed a distinctive approach focused on consultative relationships and efficient cash flow management. And rather than leading with product pitches, you'll hear from Mike today talking about how he and his team prioritize understanding the unique needs of owner-operators, those entrepreneurs who wear multiple hats while running their businesses day to day. And as a small business client myself, I know the hats well. KeyBank's mission centers on delivering tailored solutions that help these businesses run better, from speeding up receivables and optimizing liquidity to automating manual processes and protecting against fraud. Mike, welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Zach. Appreciate it.
Hope I didn't steal any of your thunder with that intro, but I'd love to just
I think we're done. I think we're done.
That's a wrap.
We need a KeyBank name badge here before we know it. So.
Exactly. Well, so let's talk about the approach. I think that's a great place to start in our conversation. How you see your role vis-a-vis your clients.
Yeah, sure, Zach. I think for us to even talk about our approach, we first have to talk about the client we serve. We try to center the client in every decision we make. And our clients in the small business space are unique. We use the term owner-operator at Key, and we use it very intentionally because these business owners, they don't just own the business, they run the business. So these are great dentists, great landscapers, great manufacturers. They're wonderful at their trade, but when it comes to running their business, they need our help. And they need our help because they're having to do everything. We often use the term CEO and big corporate America. A small business owner is a CEO as well, but they're a chief everything officer. They are doing payroll, they're doing legal, they're doing everything. So it's just really important to know that our clients are wearing many, many hats these days.
And what does calling them owner-operator? I love that term, by the way. How does that focus you and your team on the type of services that you provide your clients?
Yeah, again, I think to answer that question, if you put the client at the center, our business owners, their most precious asset is outside of maybe their trade first. If they're a dentist, they're highly skilled. It's really time. Most of our business owners are in time poverty. Unfortunately, they because they have to make payroll right after they're done filling a cavity. They need help in trying to find things about how they run their business that maybe weren't taught at dental school or taught in the trades when they're planning to become an electrician. So we really center our approach around understanding how they run their business, and then where we can create automation or efficiencies in their operations that ultimately give them back time so that they can really do what they do best, which is helping their patients or their customers or their clients.
So how is KeyBank breaking down sort of traditional silos between financial services and some of these other ancillary things that help to give the time back to this owner operator?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zach. And I'd love to tell you that like we've got it perfect at Key. I think
Work
that
in progress.
still
We got it.
a lot of silos in banking. But again, if you put the client at the center of everything you do, our clients do not care about a merchant service division or a SBA lending division or a deposit division.
These are all internal focus.
These are all are all internal silos if we allow them to be. They just see one key. They see a red brand, and they see a relationship manager, and that relationship manager represents everything to them. So for us, we have to make decisions based off what's best for the client and taking them through an interaction model that helps them really navigate everything we have to offer at Key, and we can advise, but it doesn't have to be like through kind of a siloed traditional banking approach where the lending guy's over here and then the merchant services person's over here. That's kind of how the businesses used to be, but we're now just centered around the client.
That's awesome. And so how do you use, I guess, internally, how do you use the data, information about the client that you're working with to help with this consultative approach in terms of helping steer them towards some help that they might need in a particular area?
Yeah, data is a very powerful tool in how we advise clients, but honestly, the first part of our discussion with any of our clients is much more qualitative than it is quantitative. And we have a very structured approach where we talk to all of our business owners about some of the fundamentals of just how they run their business. So, Zach, when you have a client, how do you ask for revenue? Do you send an invoice? Do you send an email? Do you just pick up the phone and say, please pay me? Like, what is your process to get that first dollar of revenue? And then through a conversation, we follow that dollar of revenue all the way through the business, from getting it into your operating account to ultimately maybe buying future assets to help grow your business. Like, we follow that dollar all the way through the business. And that part of the discussion is sometimes data agnostic. Like, this is really more qualitative first, because what we find in this space, because it's an owner operator, and if you're a dentist also needing to make payroll, you might not know how to do that efficiently. So we tend to first start with the qualitative stuff first, Zach. But then in time, we use data like, how many checks did a business owner write last month? And was that the right way to pay people? Or how many times did you come into the bank to deposit checks? And maybe you should have created a payment portal on an invoice to collect more efficiently. So we do use data in time to make it better and better. But we first start, honestly, with a very good old-fashioned qualitative conversation.
That approach makes total sense to me. And I have to imagine, Mike, that for some of your owner operators, they know it like the back of their hand, that process that you're describing, how the dollars move through. But seeing it in that way might be a very, very illuminating for them to go through that process and sort of look at it dispassionately.
Yeah, I mean, these are all very smart people, and they understand the concepts very quickly of banking. But again, they don't have CFOs often in their business. They might outsource their bookkeeping. So, like, if I had a legal question, I would call my general counsel. But I work for a huge bank. If a small business owner had a legal question or a finance question, they usually have to reach out to another business owner, friends or family. They don't have generally those resources on their teams. So they're just kind of looking for that counsel. And it's one of those kind of don't know what you don't know scenarios. And I have countless client examples where you talk to a business owner that was buying inventory with a debit card. and not really understanding how that puts cash flow strain on the business, because you're buying an asset that has cash flow leaving immediately because it's on the debit card. And then until you resell that inventory, like there's a mismatch on money going out and money coming in. So when you start to educate the business owner on maybe you should use a credit card so you could slow down the payable cycle of your business, you see that light bulb go off, and you've helped that business run better. And it's less product focused. It's more kind of like, hey, this is just helps you run your business. And it's really fun. It's really fun, Zach, to just kind of see that light bulb go off and know you're making a difference.
I could see just in your expressions and your energy around talking about your clients that you get excited about this stuff. One of the things you mentioned was that owner-operators value time, maybe they're time poor, as they juggle multiple responsibilities. And what specific digital tools does KeyBank use to help financial management become more intuitive and less time-consuming for your clients?
Yeah, if you allow me to give you an anecdote, I was talking to a client on the West Coast that runs a funeral home, and the great sense of humor. Asked her, like, what are your goals in this business? And she kind of looked at me and she said, I'm just dying for a vacation. And she said, I thought the pun in the business that she ran made me laugh. And then you kind of reflect on the fact that as a mortician, she couldn't take a vacation because the business stops when she's gone. She had owned the business for 20 years, and she goes, I have not been on a vacation.
Wow.
And you just realized like what it's like to be a business owner, especially a small business owner, and how time is really what she wanted. So when we started having conversations about how she collects, well, they didn't have an efficient invoicing platform. They just send an email and hope the checks come in. She didn't have a way to collect in a digital fashion. So she didn't have a merchant service portal on her website. She didn't have an ACH option, which is just an electronic way to pay on her website or through an invoice. And she would receive hundreds of checks, and she would have to drive those checks to the branch. Wow. And then convert them into her checking account. And we have a lot of different solutions where she could, at worst, scan the checks in her own office, at best, get paper checks out of her business and allow her clients, and who, her clients are people dealing with the hardest moments of their lives too, to just have an easier payment experience and not have to worry about the old-fashioned check writing stuff. So we were able to like quantify for her, like how many times do you drive to the bank? How long does that take? How much faster would it go if it could happen daily in your office? So when you start to kind of aggregate all the accretion with time, like getting time back to the business owner, I don't know if that gets her that vacation, but it certainly gets her closer.
I like the answer a lot. One of the things we talk about a lot on this podcast is process automation. Could be AI driven. It may just be process automation as well. But like, I'm kind of curious, what's been the most impactful automation solutions you guys have implemented, and what kind of measurable results are your clients seeing from that?
Yeah, we're always trying to remove friction in the business owner's experience for their customers, right? So like our mantra is to help a business owner run their business better. And if you can remove friction in the payment experience for the end client, like our clients of our clients, we know that that's going to help them retain clients better. It's going to help them ultimately protect their margins because they have a happier client, and we know happier clients are willing to pay a little more. And we have worked very hard to help clients really automate the collection process for their customers. So one example I could give you is we had a butcher client that was rapidly growing, and had never set up, this is a banking term, forgive me, Zach, but an omni-channel payment experience for their customers. So
yeah, I tell our reporters never to use that term, but yes,
well, I'm going to tell you,
we know what that means. Yeah, exactly.
I'll be good enough to tell you what it means. Basically,
Yeah.
when you go to Chick-fil-A, you can order on your mobile app, you can order in person.
Yep.
You can obviously ask for the food to be delivered to you with a delivery partner, or you can go pick it up and order it on. So this butcher had a very fast growing business, 4 locations in the city they're operating in, but had never, ever sold online and didn't have an omni-channel option. And we asked that business owner, like, what are your goals? Do you want to just be a successful regional butcher, or do you want to be like Omaha Steaks one day? And he looked at us and said, well, of course I want to be Omaha Steaks, but I have no idea how to do it. So we were able to then transition to the client to talk to them about the benefits of setting up an omni-channel payment experience. And we help integrate their website and accept payments online, order online, pick up in the store. I don't think you can return meat, but you certainly could. You could return if you needed to, if you're a retailer. So it's just really helping the client understand the friction in their business and how to like get rid of it. And honestly, like if the business owner never has to think about payments, then we're winning. Like we don't want that and they really have to think about this stuff, but you have to give them the ideas to get them excited about it.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know, we started out this conversation saying that KeyBank's not product driven, but more consultative. I think it'd be useful, for our listeners or our viewers, like to understand what your product suite is, though. Like, where do you begin and where do you end in terms of what you do provide clients?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have the full traditional banking services. So we are deposit products and lending products and everything you'd find at a traditional bank. But we also have a very sophisticated payments platform. So we have a very good merchant processing business. So we can help clients do everything within their merchant processing business, whether it's getting processing equipment at a restaurant that the waitress or waiters can just swipe the cards right or tap the cards even nowadays.
At the table?
Right at the table. We do all of that. We are very good at helping all things money movement. So helping business owners pay and receive in so many different fashions that are efficient to them. And then we also have some industry vertical expertise. So we have some options with specific industry verticals. Like I just gave you the e-commerce example. So like we're very good at helping business owners move from just like a retail storefront to selling digitally direct to consumer. So we have a very good expertise around helping business owners do that. We're good in the healthcare space as well.
And how do you determine what to add to that mix and whether to build it or partner with third parties?
Yeah, I mean, those are all case by case. I think it first starts with the needs of our clients. And this space is still behind a little like a more traditional middle market size company because they don't have financial offices, working in a small landscaping store. So the products and services we have today are actually really good to meet the needs of the space and where they are right now. Business owners still accept an extraordinary amount of checks. It's the number one way. It's like, I won't quote some stat because I don't know exactly what it is, but they still accept an extraordinary amount of checks. And there's really some good old fashioned technology like remote scanners that can be put in clients' offices to at least allow them to not have to drive to the branch every day, or they can take a picture of it with their phone now, where they used to have to drive to the branch every day. Ultimately, we're trying to get our clients off checks because of the amount of fraud that's going on in our industry. But Zach, we really feel like we're in a really good place, but we are always meeting with new partners and vendors to hear about what the next best thing is. But it really has to meet the need. And we're not trying to be the most advanced bank, honestly, in this space. We think some of the good old fundamentals of helping manage cash flow are really good right now. Is that fair? Is that fair?
Yeah. No, it's a good answer. Yeah. I think one of the theses that we've put forward at Tearsheet is that I do believe that small business banking is enjoying the needed attention that
Agreed.
It's getting, and we're seeing a lot of movement there in a way that we weren't seeing it a few years ago. In a way we saw, with direct to consumer, but not necessarily in SMB banking, and that one of the approaches that seems to be where the industry is headed is sort of this ecosystem approach, where it's like, you don't have to be everything to everybody, but the bank relationship is the home base or the core. Yeah. Of being able to bring together the accounting information, the payroll, the payments, and kind of quarterback that all together. And I don't know, maybe we're still at the beginning stages of that, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great observation, and I agree with you. And I think it's a great thing. And there's a lot of great financial technology partners that offer tremendous solutions that are elegant, that are fast, that are reliable, that quite frankly, banks would take a long time to build themselves. So to be able to partner with some of those vendors and deliver a better experience for our clients, it would be financial malpractice for us not to consider bringing in partners like that can do things better than us and faster than us. I do still fully subscribe, though, that the banks, especially our bank, I'm a little biased when it comes to the consultative, holistic approach of helping really run the entire business better, from your business balance sheet to your personal balance sheet to the employees that work for you and helping them navigate 401ks and other financial wellness programs. I still think banks are really good at that, and is why banks still are a very good choice for small business owners. So we will continue to partner with outside vendors when a solution that we need makes sense. But I do think at its core, like, our product is really advice. And that's something that we never want to commoditize because we think it's specialized.
Sure. And in a consultative approach like you're describing, how does KeyBank judge success? Or what are the KPIs? What are the North Stars there that you guys look at?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think I'll answer that first again with the client at the center. It's did we help them run their business better? And there's a lot of proof points for that. If we can get paper out of the business, like checks, and protect them against fraud, and there's no fraud events in the business, like, that's a really important proof point. If you can help them grow revenue and start to see ways to improve the revenue streams in their business, like maybe you offer a gift card strategy through a merchant processing arrangement, and the restaurant's now like attracting a client segment they've never attracted before. Like, that to me is much broader than just giving a loan. Like, when you're really helping a business owner strategically as a strategic partner, those proof points are why I'm in this business. And I think most of my team members would say the same. I could give you a more banker answer and say, like, as products per client improve, that's a sign of that, that clients are using you more and therefore you're delivering. But I think I'd answer it more the former, which is, again, the client at the center.
It's interesting because in our conversations, we really spent a lot of time over the past year. Obviously AI has accelerated in terms of its capacity, capacity to automate, to shorten timeframes. You're not even using language like that, like, and so like I'm kind of curious how you see the role of AI, including automation, processes and stuff like that, like impacting your business if it really is about providing better experiences and better outcomes for your clients.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't talk about AI.
Of
So I
course.
that's probably required in the podcast uh, rules of running. Yeah, no, I think we don't use AI externally all that much right now. Just to be clear, so maybe I could answer your question broader than just AI, and I'll just
Sure.
answer it as like the broader digital strategy. I think I care deeply about digitization and having great digital experiences for our clients. We need that. It's paramount. So I don't want to give you the impression that that isn't a core part of our offering for our client. We've got a great mobile experience. We've got great digital tools to help our businesses run better. But I also kind of subscribe to the like, is it the artist or the paintbrush that builds the masterpiece? Is it the chef or the skillet? And for me, I think it is really the expertise that ultimately is why clients choose us. And you need to have an effective paintbrush. Like if an artist had an old paintbrush, it'd be a little harder to make a masterpiece. But so digital is a critical part to enable us to deliver on our value proposition. And we are incapable of delivering value to clients without a great digital experience and great offers. But in the end, I tend to lead more with our expertise on advising clients on how to invoice more efficiently, how to collect from their clients more efficiently, and just really run their business. So that's probably why I sound maybe a little different. But I hope that's a fair answer.
Absolutely, it's refreshing, and we're getting near the end of our conversation. I guess I'd like to look outwards and say, like, I like that analogy that you give about the artist and the paintbrush. So, like, the paintbrush is getting better, bigger, smarter, I guess, along the way. The technology may also be empowering the chef. The artist. I don't want to mix metaphors,
Yeah.
but the artists become more capable and more crafty at their skill set. What does it look like? What does the future of a business banking relationship look like? 3 to 5 years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, we cannot commoditize our product, which is advice. If it becomes standardized and repeatable, like we lose as an industry, especially at least as a bank. So we have to find ways to continue to show that the advice we give is differentiated. If we don't, then I have to change our operating strategy, right? Like if I want to compete just on things that can be automated and commoditized fully, then you can compete that way, but it's got to be a choice. We are choosing to be much more relationship based and much more consultative, and I think that continues, and it continues far into the future. But we have to keep using better paintbrushes to deliver better advice. But in the end, I still think that's our operating strategy, and I think it's a good one. And if we ever have a future podcast, Zach, I could have a conversation with you about how you run your business, and I bet you we'd find ways that would be pretty interesting. We'd give you some ideas that will get you excited.
I would love that. I guess I have an addendum to that last question. And do you see given what we just described, what you just described, the role of a bank evolving in the future? I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Like during COVID, everything moved digital. Obviously, there was a huge push to go digital because the in-person wasn't available for a period of time. And we did see some examples, not the majority, but a few examples of banks doing things that in my mind, they hadn't traditionally done. So like on the consumer side, we had some examples of banks helping their consumers find remote jobs, for example. They've been laid off and they provided, job search functionality or job matching technology. Do you see the role of the bank evolving into the future? Are we going to expect more of banks? I don't know. I'm curious what you think.
I don't know that I can speak for the entire industry, but I think so. I mean, banks are still traditionally very good at what they used to be. Like we are great lenders. We are a preferred SBA lender. We do hundreds of millions of SBA financing every year. These are loans that, owner operators could not get conventionally. So they go to us to get, capital to buy a business or buy inventory, expand a business. We're still very good at good old tradition, checking account management. We help clients manage liquidity very well. We pay them a very good return when they keep liquidity with us. Like those core muscles are never going to go away. And I think those are still fundamental in what we're good at. But I absolutely have seen expansion in how we advise clients and, helping clients understand when to distribute equity out of the business used to only be like a CPA job.
Right.
And when it comes to tax planning, officially, it should only be a CPA job. But like sitting down with your banker and understanding the 5-year goals of the business and whether it makes sense to keep equity in the business now, and maybe take it out later, or even help them get a valuation on their business if they want to sell it in 5 years. Like we are now starting to be good at business valuation in the small business space and understanding what they're worth. That used to just be a business broker's job. So I think banks are going to continue to find ways to add value in maybe not, I wouldn't call it non-traditional. Like the things I just told you are still like cousins of the traditional stuff.
Yeah, they're complementary to it.
They're complementary is a better word, but yeah, I think it will. I think we'll continue to find different ways to add value outside of just traditional access to capital and deposit management.
Mike, it's been great talking to you today. Thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.